أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأنفقوا في سبيل الله ولا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة وأحسنوا إن الله يحب المحسنين. وأتموا الحج والعمرة لله، فإن أحصرتم فما استيسر من الهدي، ولا تحلقوا رؤوسكم حتى يبلغ الهدي محله. فمن كان منكم مريضا أو به أذى من رأسه ففدية من صيام أو صدقة أو نسك. فإذا أمنتم فمن تمتع بالعمرة إلى الحج فما استيسر من الهدي. فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام في الحج و7 إذا رجعتم، تلك 10 كاملة، ذلك لمن لم يكن أهله حاضر المسجد الحرام. واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب. الحج أشهر معلومات، فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج، وما تفعلوا من خير يعلمه الله وما تفعلوا من خير يعلمه الله. وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى، واتقون يا أولي الألباب. ليس عليكم جناح أن تبتغوا فضلا من ربكم، فإذا أفضتم من عرفات فاذكروا الله عند المشعر الحرام، واذكروه كما هداكم وإن كنتم من قبله لمن الضالين. ثم أفيضوا من حيث أفاض الناس واستغفروا الله إن الله غفور رحيم. فإذا قضيتم مناسككم فاذكروا الله كذكركم آباءكم أو أشد ذكرا. فمن الناس من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا وما له في الآخرة من خلاق، ومنهم من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة ومنهم من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. أولئك لهم نصيب مما كسبوا والله سريع الحساب. واذكروا الله في أيام معدودات، فمن تعجل في يومين فلا إثم عليه، ومن تأخر فلا إثم عليه لمن اتقى. واتقوا الله واعلموا أنكم إليه تحشرون. ومن الناس من يعجبك قوله في الحياة الدنيا ويشهد الله على ما في قلبه وهو ألد الخصام، وإذا تولى سعى في الأرض ليفسد فيها ويهلك الحرث والنسل والله لا يحب الفساد. وإذا قيل له اتق الله أخذته العزة بالإثم فحسبه جهنم ولبئس المهاد. ومن الناس من يشري نفسه ابتغاء مرضات الله والله رؤوف بالعباد. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين فإن زللتم من بعد ما جاءتكم البينات فاعلموا أن الله عزيز حكيم هل ينظرون إلا أن يأتيهم الله في ظلل من الغمام والملائكة وقضي الأمر وإلى الله ترجع الأمور. صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So brothers and sisters, subhanAllah, we have reached that point in our classes, Allahu Akbar, when we are tackling the actual days of Hajj. So this brings us to, Allahu Akbar, the very, 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 very important climax of this series of classes, subhanAllah, over the next 2 days. Now, some disclaimers up front. So there's a small Nyana element that we have missed in the build up to this. And what is that? That is looking at the week before you don ihram for Hajj. So the 1st to the 7th of Dhul Hijjah. Good. So inshallah, we will unpack this over the next few midweek catch-ups. May take us one, may take us a little bit less, a little bit more, so either one or more of the catch-ups to unpack what we should look towards and how we should plan and gear and orient ourselves surrounding the 1st to the 7th of Dhul Hijjah. So that, subhanAllah, is a broad introduction to this weekend. So we kick off, subhanAllah, with our check-in. And today, I want us to focus, and inshallah, Brother Wahib will check with the online participants. I want us to focus particularly on 3 areas from the many areas that we have in terms of our homework and how we're tracking on them. The first and most important, Allahu Akbar, is, have I tackled the idea of seeking forgiveness headlong? So we did ask last week, some were saying they're going to reach out, they reached out before. So let's see where we are today. Bismillah.
So I didn't quite reach out to any particular person. However, I did give a so-called temporary checklist to who are those that I should actually ask for the forgiveness for. There are certain current situations which makes things a little more difficult on how you approach something where there is a potential case happening. And you do not want to go ahead and jeopardize that particular case.
So, subhanAllah, so few things. The first is making a list, alhamdulillah, is meritorious. The second is, there any guarantee that you will live to see the moral, to act out on that list? It's like, okay, here's the list, wait for my accreditation, then I'll act on the list. SubhanAllah, so keep that in mind. Why? And no matter how sensitive a situation is, yes, timing is important. SubhanAllah, who do we consult on these matters? Make istikhara. Allah is the timing good. Allah to guide us. And then subhanAllah to go forth. Knowing that if we're doing this with sincerity, irrespective of what, as we covered last week, irrespective of what the response is, subhanAllah, we have fulfilled our part. So those are my few comments on your feedback. Hajj Amin.
Assalamu alaikum. As I said last week, it's not easy. I started out on some parts of my family, and as Nazim said, unfortunately, there's already issues in that specific household. I've reached out to the one section, and she says, make istikhara, Allah Ta'ala guide you, and I was very surprised. It was, and she says, go for the most difficult one, And shukr alhamdulillah on my side, it became more easy. I didn't think it was something that I didn't see if you were making this. And I still sitting in the okay, let's see, I want to do this one first. And he was also shocked. I think, you know, more than I said, go for the toughest one. But Allah Ta'ala's hand was playing along in this instance. Allah Ta'ala actually made it easier for me. Something happened in that person's, and he actually came to me instead of me going to him. And the whole situation that happened made it easier. And based on that, it's giving me more courage to tackle all the others.
Alhamdulillah.
The most difficult part on my side has been done. There's one more slightly small little one, but inshallah, if this one could go like that, with Allah Ta'ala's guidance, inshallah, the second one will be much better.
Subhanallah. So two ayat come to mind. First, as we recited previously, وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ. Hasten towards the forgiveness of your Lord. وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ. And the Jannah, subhanallah, its width or its expansiveness is the width of the heavens and the earth. Should drive us towards like, I have to make this happen. And the second, subhanallah, because when we recite verses, we don't use and utilize verses to say, you know, it would be so good if someone could act upon this. We internalize the verses, right? أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Would you not love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives you? And we know, as we discussed in forgiveness, Allah forgiving me is hinged on those people forgiving. So like, I have to I have to make haste, subhanAllah, to reach out to them. Good, subhanAllah. Any online feedback as yet? Nothing. Khair. Hajj Ihsan.
I made a progress with Abdul.
It's waiting for Eid Day.
Initially we had a plan of when we're going to start doing this, and now wasn't time. We are going to such a busy time at this moment. So I think next weekend is free.
Inshallah.
Actually, next weekend is not free. Next Sunday is.
Okay.
Then only have a 6-day program. So when things slow down, then we got our plans when we're going to do things and how we're going to do.
But I think we don't really have, I mean, there was one couple that we reached out way back in the past, and our relationship isn't worsened, it's just mutual. And but generally with the family, we're good. So it's just letting me know that we are growing and just.
I think that's basically, it's like, it's almost our policy to immediately try to fix whatever we can fix. In our life as a couple always. I'm not saying that we didn't go anything out, but if it is so, then it's probably 95% of the time it's we're not aware of it. I want to actually give you a little intention here.
Yes, I know you. It's a blind spot.
Yeah, but I mean, so that's like a life box. So, but in terms of the visiting, that was something.
Alhamdulillah. So the next one is Hajj Nazim's responsibility. How long to Hajj departure?
Okay. To the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, okay, it will be 159 days.
Good.
Right, but to the first group of people within the 6-week package, it will be 42 days, 97 days.
Okay, so 103 days to departure, right? So just check there, inshallah.
Okay, I just did 7 minus 7 times 6. That's what I said. It's 42.
A 6-week package is not 6 weeks, no? We know that.
Yeah.
No, okay, so it's 103 days to departure. All right. To the... Yes. Yes, Sister Nadia, your question?
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. With regard to the forgiveness, I don't know if it sounds strange, but we don't really have like a list, I think, that there's anything serious, because I think we generally live our lives. If there's anything that happens, we normally sort it out immediately. And so, because I try to make a list, and I'm normally the peacemaker in the family, so because so I'm always the one that reaches out. But we generally, if there's anything, disagreements and stuff in the family, we generally like deal with it straight away. So I don't know if it sounds strange, but I don't really have like a list that I can say that we need to specifically go and do.
Okay, so subhanAllah, we're not
just
really
ask the general forgiveness for the unknown that we might have done that we don't know about, inshallah. That's all from us.
Jazakumullah khair. So not overly concerned about you having a list, right? So the list is not the important thing. Doing the exercise, which is reaching out to people, is the important thing. Some of us, subhanAllah, we have lists because we're those type of people. We always find ourselves in situations. That's why we have to make lists. Others, alhamdulillah, maybe one or two. Some of us, none. Alhamdulillah. So we reflect on one of the ashab anhu, that subhanAllah, one of the companions put himself in a situation and requested that he have the opportunity of spending a few nights with another companion, because he was marveled at the person's disposition, etc. And he wanted to see what was the secret between him and Allah. So he thought, if I spend a few nights with him, like I'll get some insight in terms of how this particular ashab companion of Muhammad uses his evening, what type of ibadah he makes, etc. And then I will learn something so that I can make my own islah, my own reformation, right? So we recited Surah Al-Shams at the beginning of one of our classes. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, right? Will attain eternal felicity those who subhanAllah purify themselves. And then what happens? He spends the first night, sees nothing unique. Spends the second night, sees nothing unique. Spends the third night now. We know hospitality is 3 days. Then he has a discussion between these two companions. And he mentions that, subhanAllah, every evening before I go to bed, I rid myself of any animosity and ill feeling and understand towards anyone. And I love carefree. So sometimes people ask you, how do you manage to sleep anyway, all the time, anytime? Alhamdulillah. So that's something that we try and inculcate. And good, alhamdulillah, if we don't have the list and we've actually exercised our minds to think about it. I'm not saying this is the case. I'm saying this now as a general comment. Sometimes, as a general comment, sometimes we may say that there's no one, but we must actually second guess ourselves and dig a little bit deeper. Because we're saying there's no one because we just flippant about our interactions. It's like, I haven't heard anyone. So in wondrous oblivion denial. SubhanAllah, we have to. I'm not saying in your case, Hajj and Hajj, but I'm just saying as a human being, right? You need to ask and re-ask and interrogate so that you are clear before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But excellent, mashallah, if you don't have a list and if there's no one, fantabulous. Now, this exercise continues, this forgiveness exercise, subhanAllah, continues for all that we think about in our past, but it also continues through the journey. Right, so today we're going to be discussing the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. So at this point, which we will thresh out, inshallah, as we mentioned in one of our midweek check-ins, at the point of being in this last few days before donning ihram, we must check again. Hey, I departed on 8th of May, 9th of May. Okay, what happened? I told this other couple, no, this is the queue for the Hajj passengers for Emirates. And they were like, oh, we business class, you know, and a look or a sneer, whichever way. Get what I'm saying? So all those little nigglies throughout now the journey, in that last 7 days, first 7 days of the Hijjah, last 7 days before donning ihram, ask ourselves again. Because after having went through the exercise here at home, imagine what the fool you'd be if there were one or two small things that occurred on the trip and you didn't clean them out, subhanAllah. So I have some of my teachers' pictures in today's presentation. And this is in the age before WhatsApp, right? It's like a while ago. SubhanAllah, I remember my teacher, Sheikh Ibrahim. Sheikh Ibrahim took out his mobile phone after the program one evening in Muzdalifah. And he told this person, no, phone now, phone essay now. Now you're in front of me. So it's not just something that we put on a slide or we teach in the class. It's for real, subhanAllah, that I've seen my teachers asking people, okay, fine, you're going to enter haram 48 hours time, blah, 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 whatever else. Is there anyone, yeah, Sheikh, I tried at home and then I couldn't get hold of them and the time, all the excuses. Like, no, yeah, sure. You got the number? Sure. They was stand in the corner and sure. So subhanAllah, that's how important it is. Okay. Then the next, subhanAllah, from particularly as an output of last week's class, al-du'a ibadah, is to ask the question surrounding how our du'a books are shaping up. So let's do another round quickly.
So, alhamdulillah, my book is growing. A lot of editing needs to be done.
Why are all the du'as getting accepted before you even...
No. It's because it all over the shop. It is not structured. So now it is structured because as you get, we put down, but it's not really in format at the moment, as according to your to the slide. Look, the first two is generally it's all you can give it. That's it. I am referring to the other things that's relating to other sorts of requests. So yeah, so that is all over the shop. Okay, so alhamdulillah, so
Alhamdulillah, good. Ajah Amina?
Same with the challenges with the forgiveness, finding out a lot of to ask coming from those people, requesting to ask. So on the structure from the personal, it's growing.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So I said we've got all the du'as, it's just growing and it's not just structuring everything. But it's getting better. It's better than last week.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so
she's going to answer.
I've taken snapshots of nice flowers that I've come across that I want to include in our book. And then also...
it's our book. Hey, is this a joint venture? No.
Well, the first part is that we've got the same goals, but I mean, our personal ones will come from ourselves, that we work on. But also in terms of our family, I've reached out to a couple of people that contributed towards our country, and I've asked them personally to help, even if there's anything that I can ask them, and they have responded. And the ones who know yeah, so we have started. It's just to put it all together.
It's interesting though that I mean, so a lot of it will still be taken with the visits, but I had some we were in the tailor shop with Tito, okay, one of them Hajj weekly offers now. With
You have to make
it's involvement from the shop. I'm going to make
you don't know how it
to tailor, and so we've been collecting that everybody that we've been engaging with, and we're making notes of. This is beside our movement. Like just the odd people that you pass along the way. Like the parents of my students. So I sent out a letter to them saying, look, tuition is going to end this time. Like for Hajj, everything, then comes to us. Then comes the messages on WhatsApp. So collecting from strangers already, we haven't got to family.
Alhamdulillah. So on this Muhammad from the fabric store and whoever the tailor, etc. If we really want to do the exercise properly, we should have our sling around us when we're busy doing the shopping. And then you pull out the book and you ask him what to add. They may not on the spur of the moment because naturally he's looking after the store, he's a storekeeper, whatever else. But then you give him, okay, write my number down. Send me the dua. So my little experience in this is I would have subhanAllah friends, some specific friends or brothers who would check in with me from the end of Ramadan. Because they know like, we're going to travel for a longer period of time. So they're like, Abdurrahman, when you leave? No, we need to meet, we need to meet. It's like, not, doesn't necessarily have to be a meal, doesn't have to be coffee, whatever else. Just need to physically meet you. It can be 3 weeks before you depart. And then subhanAllah, he would give me 1 page of his notepad somewhere. And then it goes into my sling bag. And then I know I'm carrying it with me. Like even when I'm in Ihram, so it means Ihram of Umrah, going to the Rawdah, because that's like your, your bare essentials that you have on you all the time. All right? The dua is always there. And then it comes out again at Arafat. Even in the hustle and bustle and the business of looking after, other Hujjaj and facilitating for them and doing all the logistical arrangements, it comes. Then beyond that, which you shouldn't rely on because you have the ability of doing this properly, and the leeway, subhanAllah, and using those 7 days in Dhul Hijjah, first 7 days of Dhul Hijjah to do this as well, just based on how chaotic things get. Sometimes, subhanAllah, based on the relationship with certain individuals, in which I have a picture to show you in today's subhanAllah class. I'll take out my phone somewhere after Asr. So we're talking now, prime time, right? Prime time of Wukuf at Arafah. I'll take out my phone and I'll be going through these chats because I know, okay, I start that chat, edit that chat to archives because that dua is there, that dua. Specific people who are subhanAllah, really, who you have qurban and affection and, and affinity and a closeness to. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one, allow us to fulfill as best as possible for all the people, whether near or far, the ones we refer to as strangers, are sometimes not really, we're perceiving them as strangers now, but in actual fact, what's happening? Allah is opening up new relationships with random people for the next phase of our life. Subhanallah. Because the purity of that person saying, hey, you're going for Hajj, you need to make dua for me, means what? Means that they're on a particular frequency. Right? And they have a value for something, Hajj, which we may not have fully realized it ourselves. So subhanAllah, it's good to kind of know them, but also to share those numbers so the du'as can become more real. Right? And we can take inspiration from writing down their du'as for our own personal section within the personal section. Good, subhanAllah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant goodness. Number one, I want to just acknowledge subhanAllah Hajj and Nadia's feedback surrounding forgiveness. So inshallah, we will all commit to still reaching out to everyone, inshallah. Good.
Just 2 chats, and then I think Brother Lai wants to also comment.
Okay.
So let me just start with the chat with you. So Sister Nadia again. My dua book has started and it's ongoing. And ongoing as I come across something or think of more things, inshallah.
Amen.
On my side. And Sister Aisha, I started my dua book in Ramadan and it's filling up on the.
She started it in Ramadan. Okay, which is saying that she started it the past Ramadan. Okay, mashallah. Very nice. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Khair. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So let's move onwards. 9:30 already, subhanAllah. Okay, so very quick updates in terms of what's happening in the Hajj milieu and environment. We know that the deadline for those on the 4th accreditation, right, for them to accept accreditation is 29. So 29 being Monday, 6 p.m. Okay, subhanAllah, that's the first. The second is they have till the 2nd of February. So that means till the end of next week, the working week. So I think that will be Friday. Right? Yes, Friday, subhanAllah, 2nd of February, for them to firm up with their operators. So many operators still having open days and meetups and everything else this weekend. Some of the operators, bigger operators, subhanAllah, already starting to meet the Hujjaj that are traveling with them. So Himatul Awam, I think, is one who has meetups in Gauteng today, and that's why some of our hybrid, I don't call him in-person participants, our hybrid participants, Hajj Muhammad and Dhakira are not here because they have a meetup with the Khidmatul Awam. Then you would have seen this drop, subhanAllah, in terms of developments in Madinatul Munawwara, right? So smart system access to the Rawdah. So what is happening here? So these are contestations that we will continuously have to deliberate in our minds, right? And we will oscillate between 2 viewpoints, all of us at some point or the other. The ayah that comes to mind is an ayah of Surah Al-Hajj. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَيَصُدُّونَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. Indeed, those who disbelieve, وَيَصُدُّونَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and who prevent others from the way of Allah and from Masjid al-Haram. Okay, so this Masjid al-Nabawi, the Rawdah. But this idea of can you have restricted access? Can you have limited access? Can you have access via some system? Merits, demerits, etc. We understand throughput, we understand crowd control, we understand safety, all of that. But this will call upon the fuqaha, the jurists, the scholars, to really think of all the different dimensions. And when I looked at this, I subhanallah thought about Imam Shafi rahimahullah. I think if I'm correct, this is attributed to Imam Shafi rahimahullah. In terms of fiqh, Imam Shafi rahimahullah would say that I am correct, subhanallah, with the likelihood of being incorrect. And they would ask him about the opinions of others, and confidently he would say the opinions of others seem to be incorrect based on his opinion, with the likelihood of them being correct. So it's not arrogance, it's confidence, but it's appreciating, hey, that there's a room for margin for error both ways. Good, but I'm comfortable and confident in my particular stance after having researched and exercised my mind, etc., etc. So fuqaha would need to deal with this. Why is it that I'm bringing this point out on a little bit of a different frequency surrounding the same point from a different dimension or a different purview? It's the idea of where, subhanallah, in many instances of our life, in many aspects of our life, we are reliant on subject matter experts. So yes, you understand fiqh and you're a faqih, etc., but do you understand technology? As an example, right? Now, when we're talking technology as a broad term, do you understand artificial intelligence? Right? Do you understand heat mapping? Go and give this to a general mufti. Just read the article and say heat mapping. What are you talking about? Queuing theory. These are all aspects, subhanallah, that fuqaha would need to interrogate from where? Interrogate from first principles. Right? To see, okay, where does this add up and fit in? So I'll give you a basic example from fiqh to show you the type of workings that go into the minds of fuqaha. So we display a particular statement, right? And then someone says, oh, look at this person who wrote this must be very inconsiderate, as an example. Good. Just looking at the statement, right? And then someone else says, no, but you got to appreciate what? You got to appreciate the context in which it was written. Follow. So then you see, differently. So what we refer to in English as context, the word context, in fiqh terms, we refer to as zaman and makan. Zaman, time, and makan, place. Follow? Think about it. Exactly the same thing. But subhanallah, seen differently. So fuqaha would need to evaluate whatever against the constructs of Sharia. Right, so it's couched, classified, evaluated with different constructs in the rest of the world, in other worlds, in other worldviews, but we need to subject it, subhanAllah, to the constructs that we have in within our Sharia. Good. Okay, mashallah. This one, quick. So, as Nadia was saying, what? But this week, the last weekend of class. The last weekend of formal class. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open. Maybe Allah will open better and different and other things, inshallah, for us all. Amin ya Rabbal Alameen. So, subhanallah, yeah, let's just appreciate that and appreciate that we have a whole lot of midweek check-ins. Class, subhanallah, as the weeks go, check-ins will be there. Hopeful that inshallah you will participate in the check-ins, you contribute in the check-ins. Otherwise, or maybe not otherwise, what we should do is maybe we'll do a poll like on a Wednesday afternoon to see whether people are, number one, going to be attending and whether they have any particular issues that they would like to address. Because I don't want to have sessions just for the sake of having sessions and some of us feel obligated to attend when if there is nothing that we need to address, then your time could be, inshallah, spent and utilized better elsewhere. Right, so still open and available, having all of the midweek check-ins, inshallah, but wanting to make sure that they're productive and they're adding value. Okay, subhanAllah, summary of last week, right? This was our summary of last week. You must see the why. You must see the order, right? So that was our book that Ismail knew about. Where are we starting? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. Pray first, right? Then eat and then sleep. Okay. And all of that, subhanAllah, needed to be achieved based on making sure that our body was in the best physical form and state and functioning optimally, subhanAllah. And then within that, our وَنَفْسِ وَمَا سَوَاهَا, right? And then قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, that subhanAllah, our emotions had been as pure as possible, and that would mean that our energy could be focused because our minds would be clear. And then subhanAllah, that was important because of this that you've all been working on, which is the quality of our engagement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala via supplication and dua, where we are talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Good, subhanAllah. Let us now go into today's content. Right, class. So, subhanAllah, today there are 3 or 4 videos that get dropped at different times in the class. Once again, for the benefit of those who have not made Hajj, if in viewing the video, you can't intimately follow where people are and what's happening. So, seeing people in Ihram, okay, fine, in Ihram, but like knowing, okay, where are they now? What are they doing? Where are they going? If you can't follow it in that level of detail, then please let me know at the end of the video. Inshallah, I will remember to ask so that I can give you a running commentary going through the video. Let's go. Bismillah.
لولاك خاب عبد أم ملك أنت له حيث سلك لولاك يا ربي هلك كل نبي وملك وكل من أهل لك سبح أو لبى فلا يا مخطئا ما أغفلك عجل وبادر آجلك واختم بخير عملك لبيك إن الملك لك والحمد والنعمة لك والعز لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد لك والملك لا شريك لك يا مخطئا ما أغفلك عجل وبادر آجلك واختم بخير عملك لبيك إن الملك لك والحمد والنعمة لك والعز لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد لك والملك لا شريك لك
And spaces that the Hujjaj are moving in. Good. Anything online? Okay, good, subhanAllah. So brothers and sisters, this is a Hujjaj, this is a little bit of an older infographic, right? But I still like it. I like it, subhanAllah, because all of the other ones don't seem to kind of capture, as well as this one, the different stages of the journey. So this is going to pop up over the next 2 or 3 days. It's from a few years ago. Like I said, it's an older infographic. So I'm not too concerned about all the figures that are given in terms of number of pilgrims, which year it was, and all of that. SubhanAllah, that's not important, right? I'm concerned about the circles with the numbers, so the different places where Hujjaj would be. And this makes it make much more sense for us who are going to be embarking on this journey. Good. So number one, subhanAllah, I'm going to go through it briefly till the point of where we commence today, which is the 8th of it. And number one, points of entry would be entering and entering, subhanAllah, or entering via any of the mawaqit, any of the miqat, right? I don't like anglicized plurals. Right? So the plural, then mawaqit, singular, miqat, entering any of the miqat, and then coming to the Kaaba, subhanAllah, to complete our tawaf. So we discussed that when we spoke about Umrah. Good. And after completing our tawaf, the two very important elements in terms of rituals, physical acts, would be the tawaf and the sa'i, then completing the sa'i. So that's kind of where we've got to in our class. And today, subhanAllah, we're going to go from number 4. Right? So today, not too taxing, complex, complicated, because we're going to look at number 4, and then subhanAllah, we're going to look at number 5, and inshallah, if time allows, we'll look at number 6. All right, so we're going to look at Mina, what happens on the first day in Mina, then subhanAllah, look at Arafat, and now we're going to look at Arafat in terms of physically, practically, what's going to happen, knowing that what's happening in Arafat, everything that we spoke about, ad-du'a or mukhul ibadah last weekend, we're going to actualize on Arafat. And then subhanAllah, number 6, we inshallah want to explore that night in Muzdalifah, and we'll get some first-hand accounts from some people about, I had to sleep here on the sand, and there were stones, and there was no paving, and they told me the road is tarred. Inshallah, they're not hearing us right now.
No.
Okay, good. Okay, so brothers and sisters, Imam Shafi rahimahullah, what did he say? We spoke about earlier. I'm correct with the likelihood of being incorrect. and others are incorrect with the likelihood of them being correct. Why is that relevant to the heading here? Because the dates that are being shared are saying that the 8th of Dhul Hijjah is going to be on a Friday. Good. All right.
So you are correct, Mohan.
The year is not correct. Oops, the date is correct, but the year is not correct. Jazakumullah khairan for pointing that out. Let's do that on the fly. Inshallah, we will have one more slide where the year is incorrect. Well spotted. Some of us are still greeting people with compliments of the season. That's why we had three there, right? So the date, the Gregorian date is definitely correct. But we're talking about the Gregorian date linking to, so the Gregorian date is 15th of June being a Saturday, that's correct. We're talking about whether the 8th of Dhul Hijjah is on a Saturday or whether the 8th of Dhul Hijjah is on a Friday. So I want to leave that portion of the discussion to when we speak about the 1st to the 7th of Dhul Hijjah. Good. What I would want to say though is if the 8th of Dhul Hijjah happens to be on a Friday, right, there would be just one difference to this whole slide that you're still going to see, that I'm still going to exhibit. There would be only one difference, and we'll discuss that when we go through each of the bullets here. All right. So the approach we take, subhanAllah, over this weekend, which is today and tomorrow, is we look at each station. So we're speaking about Mina, right? And then Arafat, number 4, number 5, number 6 on the infographic, right? And we look at what are the critical things to think about with regards to that station, right? So you're going to see it in bullets. And then after it, we're going to go through it pictorially. So you're seeing it in visuals, and that will give you an understanding, subhanAllah, of how possibly you could approach it on your Days of Hajj. Good. So subhanAllah, when it comes to the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, like I said, Friday or Saturday, right? These are the critical things that we want to discuss, we want to decide, we want to opt for, the choices we have, etc. Right? When to leave for me, one discussion. Second one, whether we should take the bus or walk. So I'm going to list all the bullets and then reverse and then hide them again, and then subhanAllah deal with them one by one. The third discussion we want to have is surrounding choosing a spot. So choosing a spot in the actual tent in Mina. Good. Joined by the HIP 1 dua book. She's doing the exercise. She'll give the input and the feedback. What we're going to just make a photocopy, or how's it going to work, right? Because on the actual days of Hajj, for very significant amounts of time, we will not physically be with each other.
So we're not doing one dua book.
I'm teasing, right? Okay, subhanAllah, but just keep this in mind, right? And then subhanAllah, we want to speak about sleep and managing our sleep. So that's building on from last weekend, and then looking at the programs after every salah. Good, subhanAllah. So let's go back. When to leave for Mina. So we have now two likelihoods based on a logistical concept that filters down from the muassasa. So what's the muassasa? Let's think World Cup. We have FIFA. Good. And then you have the LOC, the local organizing committee. So you have the Ministry of Hajj. Their job is to make sure Hajj happens. There's a whole ministry that functions the whole year round. And then under them, they have, what do we call them in our colloquial South African language? We have the workers. Okay, the actualizers, the people who have to make it happen. The local organizing committee is referred to as the muassasa. And the muassasa is broken up into 7 or 8 global regions. So the whole globe is broken up into 7 or 8 regions. Each region then is further subdivided. So you would have Africa, and then within Africa, you would have Arabic speaking portion, and you would have the non-Arabic speaking portion. Right? So we fall under African non-Arabic speaking countries. Good. Then within those global subdivisions, 7, 8 regions of the world, you have further breakdown. So now we have what we refer to as service offices, right? So I think we had discussed somewhere, South Africa was a service office 19, and then it was service office 21 and 24, and then, what was it last year? Or last Hajj, I can't even remember. So different service offices, right? It's telling you already, by me mentioning 24, that under African non-Arabic speaking countries, how many service offices? 24 plus. Okay. Why is all of this structure there? Language, region, socioeconomics, climate, travel implications, right? So a whole lot of factors, living standard, index, all of these contribute to having specific regions. And it makes it, subhanAllah, even though it may not seem so, it makes it a little bit more manageable. Let's think about it from the other way. If it was a very flat structure, we have how many South African operators? Reduced now to 10. Right, so it didn't make their 50. I think some of them then put in some sort of requisition to say, give us another chance, you know, in the success of accreditation. So between 10 and 50, right? Okay, subhanAllah. Imagine if in the SADC region, knowing that some countries in the SADC region, even though socioeconomically are a little bit weaker than South Africa, the Muslim populations are larger. Good. But with the Muslim populations being larger and them being a little bit weaker socioeconomically, maybe not as many Hujjaj travel, or maybe more Hujjaj travel, but on a lower tier of service. Right? Okay. Imagine, subhanAllah, if the Ministry of Hajj, here's one minister, naturally he has people working in his ministry, has to communicate to every operator from the whole world. Follow. And sometimes the communication is urgent and important. And that needs to happen instantaneously. So what we're going to start phoning? 10 for South Africa, 10 for Malawi, 3 for Zambia. Understand? So subhanAllah, that's the reason why the structure is not as flat as ideally in our minds, thinking about organograms, you know, etc., and organizational charts. You would think, no, but make it flat because we're all equal. So there's a level of hierarchy based on facilitating some level of communication and some level of efficiency. And I guess the challenge would always be finding the sweet spot, right? So in terms of when to leave for Mina, we speak about 2 options. You may have 2 options, or you may just be subjected to one of the 2 options. So we have 2.5 million plus people who will be on Hajj this year, right? We don't know exactly what that number is going to be. Why don't we know that? Because our 2,500 accreditation list hasn't closed yet. So globally, that means other countries, bigger populations or smaller populations are going through a same, similar or parallel system. Once they all close their quotas and bank their numbers, then subhanAllah, the Ministry of Hajj would know, okay, fine, from how much we had envisaged we would cater for on Hajj or host on Hajj, we now have so much left, or there's an excess demand. Can we access demand, subhanAllah, from the side of people who want to make Hajj? Can we supply? Right, so it's somewhere in the region of 2.5 million. Let's see where it goes. Right, 2.5 million or more would mean that it's something I may have referenced in one of our classes or some of our discussions before, that they would employ what's referred to as Doreen. What's Doreen? 2 rounds. Every bus must do 2 trips of the same journey. So everyone needs to get to Mina when? On the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. Right. If we want to get people to Mina on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, and we know from a fiqh perspective that the idea around Yawm Tarwiyah, which means day of rest, is that ideally people must observe Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, and Fajr the next morning in Mina. How do we guarantee that every bus will do 2 rounds? We're talking 2.5 million people divided by 50. 40,000 buses in a confined space. Okay? So how do we do this? You say, no, let the one bus leave after Fajr, do one round and then come back. But that bus coming back is coming against the traffic that's going into Mina. Right? So what happens is the rain means that the one trip will start before Fajr. So anywhere from after Isha. So comfortably it's done, drops the passengers, then navigates its way out of the traffic and congestion and positions itself at a different part, or maybe the same place, the same hotel, right? The same building, the same apartment to do, same region to do a second trip back into Mina. What does this mean? This means I could be subjected to leaving for Mina the night before. Okay, if this happens, how do I deal with this? Here's where we rely on the stuff that we haven't done a little bit, but I'll share with you. The last day, the 7th of Dhul Hijjah for us is a free day. Why is it a free day? Because we are ready and packed for Hajj on the 6th evening. Ready, backpacked. The last day, feet off the ground. Good. So that means if they tell us even at Maghrib time on the 7th, right, that you need to leave after Isha, is it a challenge for us? No, we're ready. Bag was packed from last night, Maghrib. Get what I'm saying? Right. We would have one of two options if they ask us to leave at night. Definitely, we would be more comfortable taking our ghusl in our accommodation in Azizia, whether hotel or apartment, right? The evening before, once we know that we're going to be leaving at this time. Do we wear the clothing of ihram or not? Maybe more comfortable to wear the clothing, because then I'm not carrying one extra set of clothing. Follow? Do I make the niyyah or not? Okay. So we always go back to the idea of what was our gold standard, the Hajj of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and how as best as possible I can meet that with all the constraints, challenges, roadblocks, how I can meet that either in form and essence, or just in form, or just in essence. So when did Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam make niyyah of Hajj? On the morning of the 8th. Okay. When did Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam proceed to Mina? On the morning of the 8th. What's happening to me? Let's say, for instance, I'm being subjected to having to leave the night before. So same like how for Umrah, we donned the clothing at the hotel in Madinatul Munawwarah, just to be, what? A little bit more efficient and streamlined. But we made the niyyah at the miqat, where Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made niyyah. Similarly, I donned the ihram the night before. I'm already in Mina, but then only formalize my niyyah at the time that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam formalized his niyyah. Follow? So I'm getting some portion of the form and definitely getting the essence. Follow it, class? Right. Yes.
Understanding correctly, if the possibility is that we are leaving after Isha, okay, on the 6th.
When I say after Isha means anytime before Fajr, right?
Right. So, and then by the way, if you have passed the midnight, you probably be in the morning of the 7th of the
No, so we're going to count not from midnight, we're going to count from Fajr.
Okay.
Good.
I
Right.
thought you would get it's the new day.
No. So on the actual days of Hajj, so this is another unique thing. We said that we call time by the onset of Maghrib.
Okay.
On the days of Hajj, doesn't work like that. We call time from Fajr. Sounds a bit strange, no? Just for the days of Hajj, we switch this way. Not for any practical, when I say practical purposes, not because it's easier to understand and people don't grasp the concept of the night comes for. No, actually in the books of fiqh, subhanAllah, it's like this. And you'll see in terms of the timing of many of the manasik, the references are from Subh Sadiq, from early dawn, or till Subh Sadiq, because we're counting at 24 hours from the onset of Fajr till the next Fajr. Good. Clear?
Yeah, so basically, you may be you're actually going with it out with no,
Yeah.
and therefore, the Fajr So what is when you actually perform in here?
Yes, after.
After.
Right? Okay, now, when we speak of after, this is now for the one who had to leave their accommodation and get to Mina when? Somewhere in the night, before Fajr. Right? That person would do what? That person would wait till after sunrise to make their meal. Good. Now let's say that we were not subjected to go at night. There was like, chill, you booked a $250,000 Hajj package. We'll arrange for the buses to only fetch you in the morning. You can have breakfast here. Lovely. So how do we approach this? We approach this by saying, okay, let me do my ghusl of ihram, depending on what time they give us, right? If they say 8 o'clock, we know Fajr is somewhere after 5, then we can do it after Fajr. But if they say like you're leaving at 6 o'clock, now let me do the ghusl before Fajr, but I will only make the niyyah after sunrise, depending on the time they give us. So you have to understand the fiqh, and you have to understand what are the different options that could be presented to us, or should I say, the different options that we could be subjected to. Right, so subhanAllah, if let's say, for instance, now we were told you're leaving in the morning, right? In the morning, meaning after Fajr. Alhamdulillah, I make Fajr. Ideally, I make Fajr. And then subhanAllah, I take ghusl of ihram. And then I wait till after sunrise. And then I formalize my niyyah. Okay. Now, in between this, that's now theoretically. In between this, subhanAllah, we drop the next discussion. I think we've discussed bus at length, right? Because bus could either be in the evening, meaning somewhere before Fajr, or it could be somewhere after sunrise. Now what happens if I'm walking? The visuals that you saw, the video that you saw, subhanAllah, to open up today's new content in class was essentially the people leaving from the Haram area to get to Mina. So when is this? It's after sunrise. But even though the video was totally kind of grayed out, so it had that grayed out effect on it, right? That opaque effect on the entire video. It's hot in that walk from the Haram to Mina. So we're talking about a 6-7 kilometer walk from the Haram, right? So they coming into Ihram where? On the Mataf. You most likely are not coming into Ihram on the Mataf because you're staying closer to Mina. What separates you from Mina? A mountain range. We discussed that some way, I think, subhanAllah. So, good, you're not going to be subjected to that heat or that extreme heat, but even with that, noting that we have not lived for significant portions of our life in such a climate, South Africans who walk into Mina would normally leave to walk into Mina immediately after Fajr. Which means what? I have two choices. I can do what? I can come into the state of Ihram before Fajr. That means when I set my foot in Mina, I'm a muhrim, I'm in Ihram, which is what most South Africans opt for. Or I could be like the people who came last night. I could leave after Fajr because I can't bear the intensity of the heat. Clad in my clothing of Ihram, and then enter Mina and formalize my niyyah in Mina. Now this is where, subhanAllah, you give your own flair and your own finesse to your Hajj. What works for you? Follow? Would I want to enter step? The board says Mina starts here. We're going to see the board that says Mina starts here. Would I want to pass that board on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, a little bit after sunrise, already in Ihram? Or am I comfortable entering Mina, not in the state of Ihram, which is no violation, and then making my niyyah while in my 2 rakah and making my niyyah when I'm already in Mina? Okay, now there's a subset to that. I could have made the 2 rakah before we started walking, if we were, well, that would have been then before Fajr, but not made the niyyah. Yes. And then only make my niyyah when? After sunrise. So we're walking already, it's after sunrise, I'll make my niyyah now. Okay, so many options. But that's where you give your own flair and your own finesse, subhanAllah, to your Hajj. Good? Yes.
Well, look at from a practical perspective, if you decide to walk, hopefully you walk with people that actually know how to find the camp.
Okay, so millionaires Hajj. So that, subhanAllah, is not the biggest concern and shouldn't be the biggest concern in Hajj going forward, meaning 1445 and inshallah for the next few years as far as we know. Why? Because the allocation of team members, volunteers, Uttam, whatever they refer them to Hujjaj is such that someone will walk with you. Right? In the millionaires Hajj, that was a little bit more of a challenge because the ratio was 1:75, not 1:50. Millionaires Hajj, why? Because they're millionaires. Because only 1 million people made Hajj that year, 897,000 and so on. Right? Okay, good, subhanAllah. So not the biggest concern, but even with that, in the current milieu, from your 10 to 15 operators, some of them have not operated on Hajj before. Yes, they've met those criteria of having some institutional knowledge and experience by virtue of the team. But who says the team member who has that experience is the one who's doing the walking with Sure. So from which we discussed last year, subhanAllah, myself and one of the brothers who's very active and energetic as a khadim, we discussed last year of setting up this cooperative of people who are across all the different operators. So we have WhatsApp groups managing WhatsApp groups. We have WhatsApp groups managing Hujjaj. We have WhatsApp groups managing Hujjaj traveling with a specific operator. Now we're saying let's add one more WhatsApp group of people who are facilitating on behalf of all of the operators where we can share knowledge. But then we share knowledge and experience and these kind of things. Say you need to enter through this gate so that you can cut out a 1 kilometer, blah, 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 whatever. But what's the problem? No. So we said no, we don't think everyone's ready for it based on how they interact on the broad open forums. Du'as, you make those du'as. Okay, so subhanAllah, we have these various options. What happened? Or what have I done, you ask? What do you do? Depends on the year and the situation. Last year, the names of the people on whose behalf I had to execute Hajj were only shared with me when I was walking already. I was like, hey, how could I intervene now? Like you're supposed to give those to me days ago. I've been checking with you now. It's like do or die. I'm going to be now. Oh, okay, we'll WhatsApp you the names now. I was like, okay, fine, mashallah. So what did happen? 2 rakat salah before Fajr. Made Fajr. Walk with the group, subhanAllah. Now it's like, Mina starts here, the board is looming large. Now, subhanAllah, okay, get the names, make the niyyah, subhanAllah, walking. So different times, different. Okay, next discussion. Choosing a spot. Right, so I'm gonna park choosing a spot as a discussion for when I actually have visuals, which we do have, because then it's going to make much more sense. Put the others conceptually you could understand, but choosing a spot will be a little bit of a challenge to grasp, or it's easier grasp when we look at the actual visuals. Right, then, yes.
Can I just go back to the passing?
Sure. May I request someone pass me a notch?
Okay, so the judge is going to have these options. Am I going to move? Am I going to go with the bus? The challenge is the bus going to be on time? And is it going to be able to get you into your so-called potential spot, closer to your spot to take off bus stops? Okay, really about your should we walk? Should we go with the bus? This is a big challenge. So the way I see it is, if you are potentially good enough to be able to walk in that heat, then that means your decision is made. But you obviously have to then inform the people before the time.
Lovely.
Long before the time, because there is a push schedule, which probably remains under the
Okay,
So-
subhanAllah.
That's what I needed to discuss.
Lovely. So, also, subhanAllah, the reason why generally we do things in chronological order, so we would have kind of covered, not kind of, we would have covered this discussion when we discussed 1st to 7th of Dhul Hijjah, but no problem, let's have it here. Okay. Between the 1st and 7th of Dhul Hijjah, you will do a trial walk to Mina. So you're going to go with your group at the pre-arranged time, either early in the morning, late afternoon, most likely in the evening, and you're going to walk into Mina. They're going to show you, okay, most likely we will be using this route to come into Mina. It may change on the day based on how traffic is being regulated, but that's a thing that they want to show you on the trial walk. The next thing that they want to show you on the trial walk is where is your camp. So even if the route to get to access Mina, to go from one side of the mountain to the other side of the mountain may change, the actual camp won't change. So they only do the trial walk once the camp allocation has been confirmed. So you'll be there on the second. When are we going to Mina? When are we going? No, not yet Hajj. And you're like, guys, like Hajj, like get us ready. Because the allocations haven't been done. Or they have been done, but it's not, the signboards are not up, right? That kind of thing. So once that signboards are in place, number one, and subhanAllah, the traffic has been re-regulated for the Hajj season. Why? There are highways that run through Mina. Yes, highways, freeways that run through Mina. So for the time of Hajj, boom, there's alternate routes that the whole of Makkah has to use. Because now this is off bounds. Once that's been put into place and implemented as the alternate routes, there's no now heavy vehicular traffic into Mina. Now it's safe for pedestrians to walk into Mina. Good. So at this time now they kind of schedule, fine, subhanAllah, let's do our trial walk. So you do your trial walk, you will get to the camp. When you get to the camp, you remember that group that you had with all the documentation? Your WhatsApp group between yourself and your spouse? Drop open location on that group. Everyone will drop on your operator Hajj chat and on the class chat. Very nice. But there's going to be lots of activity on all those other chats. Now, this chat, what happens? There's no activity, right? It was just a repository of important things. So keep it like that. It's a repository of this important location. There's no chit-chatting here so that I must scroll up, oh, where's the link, etc. It's dropped on this chat as a pin location and it stays there. Fine. Then they'll show you a little bit. So we've got some visuals. They'll show you, subhanAllah, what's happening. And then they will show you how to exit Mina to come back to the building. Why am I mentioning all of this? Because of your question. Right. Now you've undertaken this trial walk. Let's say, for instance, it was on the 5th of Dhul Hijjah or the 6th of Dhul Hijjah. Now you've got this 1 or 2 days to think about, okay, after that walk, even though I've been part of Fit for Hajj, or I've been walking every Saturday or Sunday or whatever else, subhanAllah, I've been part of one or other walking program. This is the impact on me physically. But we didn't walk in the morning, we walked at night. So I'm going to be walking in the morning, which means that if we leave immediately after Fajr, I won't get too much sun, but it's going to be hotter than walking at night. Right? So you got to just extrapolate it and then you make a calculated decision. Am I walking? Am I not walking? That's in terms of physical fitness, physical ability and energy. What's the other element to making the choice, which you correctly alluded to? Choosing a spot. If they said that the bus is leaving at night, what it means? It means, hey, if I'm walking, I'm not getting first dibs anyway. Doesn't mean I need to opt to take the bus, not necessarily. Because I must know in my mind, after having gone through the next 2 days, which legs I'm planning on walking. It may change on the actual trip, and which legs I'm not planning on walking. So this particular leg, is it long? No. It's arguably one of the shortest legs of the walk. But it's the only leg that has an incline. So as much as we're saying, what, next week Sunday you free? No, next week Sunday you returning to Johannesburg Botanical Gardens so that we can start doing the inclines with you in the walk. And the inclines are particularly chosen to give you a rough idea of the incline you will have to navigate on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah walking into Mina. Fine, subhanAllah. Right on. So that kind of informs the choice. Energy levels based on the trial walk. Hey, I don't need this. I'm going to take the bus, whether it's at night, whether it's in the morning. Or small snacks. I can do this. Zamzam on tap, right? So my bladder, why? On the days of Hajj, there is no supply of Zamzam. Yes, you are on Hajj. There's adequate supply of bottled water and the canisters we showed you, subhanAllah, when we didn't cover at length, but inshallah there'll be pictures. Every 100, 200 meters throughout all the places of Hajj, there's refrigerated, fresh, safe to consume drinking water available in dispensers. Right? But no Zamzam. Just based on the sheer numbers. So if I have been the type of person who has been living Zamzam on tap from 8th of Dhul Hijjah, 8th of May, with my bladder, what happens? I need to make sure 1st to 7th of Dhul Hijjah, I make a plan. How do I make a plan? When we go to the haram once a day or every alternate day, I must come back with the 2 or 3 liters of Zamzam because we're going to consume some in the room. But when I fill my bladder 2 nights before Hajj, what happens? I fill my bladder, subhanAllah, wanting to do what? Wanting to make sure that, will it power up once I press it? Right? I will want to make sure what? That I have Zamzam. And now, when we look at Zamzam and we look at the fada'il and the virtue of Zamzam and the qubuliyah and the acceptance that comes with Zamzam, hey, this 3 liters needs to last me into Arafat.